Welcome to Ignite Intimacy, a podcast exploring intimacy, romantic relationships, sexuality, and everything that relates to these hot topics. We're going in. Are you ready? This is your host, Laura Aisha. Let's do this. All right, here we go. Lauren Bille. So
Hi.
great to be here with you. I know, I was like, shit, how do you say her last
Bille,
name?
yeah.
and then I follow you on Instagram and I saw next to your last name in parentheses, like Billy. And I was like, it is Billy. Okay. So we're going to start how we start all of our podcast conversations. And for most of our episodes, our listeners haven't been in on this process of just getting aligned and, meditative and just, bringing our energy together. So I've been starting to do this a little bit more frequently where they actually get to sit with us during this meditation. So for our listeners, if you're in a safe spot and you're not like driving or operating heavy machinery or watching your 2-year-old, feel free to just take a moment and we're just going to allow our eyes to get heavy. You can also close your eyes and just turn your gaze inward. Just noticing the breath, noticing where there's any tension in the body and just bringing breath to those areas, releasing and just coming fully present in this moment. Just giving so much thanks for us having the blessing and opportunity to be here together today. It is a real blessing. There's grace, there's trust, there's faith, there's flow, there's energy and presence. And just asking that anything that is needed to be received by anyone who will ever listen to this episode, that it flows through Lauren and I with ease and grace and clarity. And let's take 3 nice big deep belly breaths in and out. I'll guide us through these breaths. And let's get started. Nice big deep breath in. And out. And in. And out. And in. And out. All right, wiggling fingers and toes, rolling the shoulders, wiggling the head, opening your eyes. Yeah.
Yes.
So great to be here with you.
Thank you. You too.
And it's great to be here with you, like in the flesh. I've been doing most of my podcast recordings over Skype for the last year plus. So just featured a really, really dear friend of mine, Miriam Mufid, and I was in Montreal staying with her. And so we got a chance to do this and it was so awesome. So it's beautiful that you were open to inviting me into your home and so that we can have this in the flesh, face-to-face experience in this powerful digital age.
Agreed.
So cool. So I was sitting with a friend months ago, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. And he was like, do you know about Lauren Bille? She's doing some cool stuff around sex and, she does these talks and this, some other stuff. You should check her out. And it was funny because I thought maybe we had met before, but we hadn't. And so Lauren and I have been in touch about doing this recording for a couple of months, at least 2 or 3 months. And Lauren's got this amazing startup that she's building. So she's been really busy. So we're going to learn more about that. But Lauren, What is happening?
Hi. What's happening? It's funny, this very moment, yes, I'm building a startup, and right before we started, I got this text from my business partner, who I love so much and who's so incredible, and I've never had a relationship this dynamic or committed, that said she was scared and she felt like crying. So right now what's happening is I'm curious about why. And she does so much supporting of me. And it's a really cool opportunity for me to like energetically be strong and grounded and sure for her. So that's like literally in this moment, the thing that's happening.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. It's like, what a space that creates.
Yeah.
Vulnerability. Like when we're talking about intimacy, right? It's like, I know that when, for myself and my own experience, when I posture as the supporter, it can feel like very vulnerable to then reach out to the people that I feel like see me as a supporter and a leader, to then reach out to them for support.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, we have a really cool give and take.
I love that. Beautiful. So for our listeners, we're going to get into some juicy topics here. We're going to actually hear about Cycles and Sex, which is your company that you're building. And I see it as a movement as well. And we're also going to talk about being chosen, and an experience that I believe we both can relate to around like, why haven't I been chosen? Why doesn't he choose me? And flipping the script on that to choosing, us being the one that's choosing, right? And then we're going to get into some of like the Me Too stuff and the whole Kavanaugh entry into the Supreme Court, and just like the protesting that was going on during the Kavanaugh hearings. And yeah, so we're going to get into some really powerful topics today.
Great.
Yeah. And what I'd love for you to do is just like, let's introduce you, the woman, Lauren, to our audience. Like, give us just a snapshot into your life, what your experience has been that has brought you to this point.
Okay. I am Lauren Bille. I'm 35. Funny age to be. I had a lot of challenges, emotional challenges as a youth, as a young person. Basically, I think I was just really critically thinking about purpose and why I didn't quite get why being alive was worth it or awesome. I didn't get it. So I think, in retrospect, as an adult who gets it more, who has chosen like to believe why being alive is cool. I think I didn't have, enough opportunities around me or adult mentors. My parents are great people, but I just didn't have, I was just thinking deeply and I didn't understand why it was so hard and so competitive and there was so much pressure to do a certain thing. So as a young person, I was depressed and self-destructive and struggled with eating stuff at a really young age, like trying to make my body thinner at a really, really young age. And then like I got into cutting myself, and I ended up trying to commit suicide at 12. And ended up in a mental hospital or, a behavioral institute, which it was interesting because I think, I just needed something deeper or something like more profound or something spiritual or something inspiring. And I wasn't finding it. And so that experience led me to, I still didn't find it, but that experience led me to getting into drugs and alcohol as like a different way out. And I think even when you're high, I don't know, at least like when you're high and drunk, at least you're experiencing something new and deep and profound, in the moment. I mean, I understand that, but in the moment to be able to take yourself out of something that felt confusing and hard life and then to escape into this like weird free world was something I really liked and craved. It was escapism, and I was really reckless because I didn't have enough keeping me interested in like taking care of my life or myself. So that led me to a lot of pain and, you know, consequences. And I ended up getting sober when I was 17. And because, you know, I have a cute, like, deep story about that. But basically, yeah, I got sober in a community of other sober people. And it was, like, really cool. And so that's where I kind of began my spiritual journey. I mean, I think I was always on a spiritual journey, but, like, putting it down and feeling like there was this other way to live and getting some framework and some mentorship around it was like how I began kind of this life of who I am today. And that was 18 years ago. And okay, so did that. I would say that was the foundation of why I believe, well, so as like a human and a leader and a business owner and a female activist, I part of my voice is that I'm very honest about I'm honest. And I try really hard to shape out loud and with words my like what I'm actually thinking, my insecurities, because I feel like what I learned from getting sober around other people who understood my problem, that there was such a piece of like a spirit of hope and laughter and lightness when you're just sharing stuff that normally we're all hiding and that we have shame about. And it was that the power of like people who understood the pain in which I felt like the glory. So I think that would be the foundation of like how I lead today.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like this, it's like when you realize you're not alone in your struggle.
Right.
That like, oh, I'm not the only one that, you know, is depressed or is questioning this or is seeking a deeper meaning and purpose to life.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden it's like, I mean, I know from my own experience, it's just like, it's like this sigh of relief.
Totally.
Like, thank everything. I'm not the only one.
Totally. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that's very much a foundation of how I got into, well, meditation and leadership stuff and building community around people having a shared need or a shared hunger for something. And I realized that, yeah, people are just dying to connect to one another. And for whatever reason, in this generation, in this moment, I'm seeking ways to help people do that.
Yeah.
And so do you have like, I mean, I know I'm being really general.
It's great.
Okay.
Well, because we want to know what got you to now,
Okay,
right?
yeah. So
you were
I can
involved.
say more specific things.
Yeah. Well, and so you were involved. So you started meditating
when I got sober.
Yeah.
It's a part of like the deal.
Yeah.
So I started meditating and like inviting, and I've always been like atheist, maybe agnostic, but I'm not religious. I think it's really cool and helpful, but like my mind doesn't accept like one thing. Like, but it's just like I just like challenge every like institutional thought, or I try to, because I'm just not sure it's real. And so I just started talking to the air in my room, you know, prayer and also meditating and learning to like not let my thoughts dictate my actions so much, and learning to like be patient and see how time like soothes and heals and changes feelings and thoughts so fast if you just like give it a moment. And I'm still not good at it, you know, like, or I have certain areas of my life I'm good at it, and then other times I'm still reacting. But yeah, started meditating. I ended up taking a 5th year of high school.
Okay.
Finally graduating, going to community college. I'm a first generation college student, so I didn't have like, I didn't know literally how to walk up to register for classes. So, you know, another sober person who was older, like held my hand and brought me to San Diego City Community College and showed me what registration meant. And so community college was scary because I wasn't sure if I was capable, but I did well. And, you know, I just showed up again, listened, was present, did the work. And it's not, I think if you do those things, it's not that hard to, or, you know, if you don't understand, ask. So much that like gets in our way is like our own mind and our own fear.
Yeah. Yeah. The minutia. getting stuck in the minutia. So I'm curious, like, who were you in relation to like dating and love and sex?
At this time?
Yeah.
I had sex at a really young age. I think because of like self-destruction, or, you know, because I was just like out to experience and out to, so I had sex at a young age, and I also used it as a way to get attention from men. You know, I think that I was always so, interested in being loved and being like enough, and I would see, so I found that if I like drank, this is what I did. After I started like drinking and doing a lot of drugs, I found these guys who were like popular and cool who also drank and did a lot of drugs. They all had like really like wonderful girlfriends who were like popular and pretty and like weren't partying like that. But I was like, oh, my way in could be, I mean, I wasn't thinking this, but I've analyzed it now, but like, if I just developed relationships with them where they like respected me because I could do what they could do, then like I was actually, maybe I could make them fall in love with me, not for being like a pretty nice girl, but for being like a peer. And so I was like having sex in high school with like my guy friends who also had girlfriends that were way different than me. I mean, not really, but in how we appeared like, socially. Yeah. So that wasn't, it was like this secret, I was having this secret life where I was finding this form of like love and connection, but it wasn't, it wasn't something they were choosing during the day.
So it's like a false sense of like love. Yeah.
And I think this is something I've seen in a pattern with me is like, if I wasn't as pretty as these one women, or like thin or put together as the girls who like got all the attention, then I could just like have a really good personality. I really think this is why I'm even like charming today, because I like practice the skill of like, I have to have a good personality. If I can't always just be like hot, and it's fine. I'm comfortable with how I look today, but like, I just never felt like I was like the pretty enough or like put together enough, and I didn't know. I was like, how does she know how to like do her hair like that?
Okay, this is so interesting, just because I can so relate. Our stories are like, it's like we've been living parallel stories in a sense, our lives. So let's talk about the two different topics that are coming up: being the chosen one, and the Me Too movement, right? So I'm thinking in terms of like this whole story around like making yourself a certain way so that you will be chosen by a man. Let's talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I posted something about this yesterday, and many people agreed, women. Many people were like, thank you, oh my God, that's how I feel. But then some people were like, find yourself, girl. Like, what are you talking about? And I think that when I really look, it's not like my mom was like, you have to find a husband.
Sure.
But I just think like in media, in movies growing up, like even like I loved the show Clueless, right? Like she was kind of like an empowered, or the movie Clueless. She was like empowered, but still like men wanted her, and that was a place of power. And I just think that I truly I really believe that women, it's true. If you look at like our society, women have the most power if they're wanted by men. Like that's how you get power, is if you're hot. Like that's truly the way that you get the most power. And I say power meaning like autonomy, opportunity to make decisions, opportunities to experience things. Like even if you see all of these like rich famous people, they choose a very specific looking woman. I mean, for the most part, right? And it's usually the type of woman that is deemed by current society as like being the hottest. That's it.
Yeah, it's got nothing to necessarily do with character, or
they might be really great. Yeah. But there's a consistent thing across the board, and it's like, well, for you could say supermodel, right? And which, even if you look at, and that's like one example, and supermodel changes, but like if you look at the stats of what it takes to be that type of supermodel, it's like 2% of like the human like body like looks like that naturally.
Yeah, so not even, I'd say.
Right.
Yeah.
it's crazy. So it's like, yeah, I would say, and this is like a little bit in defense of people who are like, I don't know why you believe that your purpose in life is to be chosen by men. I don't think that's what I believed when I've dug deeper to be like, why do I have all these issues?
Yeah.
Why do I care so much? Like, why do I get up and think about looking hot? Like,
Yeah.
why is that important?
Yeah.
Like,
why is that alive in you? Like,
why is that more important than like thinking about, are my finances in order? Do I enjoy my work? Like,
yeah. Do I like the people I spend my time with?
Yeah. It's way more, and you see it, like, right? Like, even in nightlife, like, even if you look at, quote, like, a bar or the club, like, women get ready. And it's funny because I'm old enough now that I've seen, like, phases of, like, what hot looks like. And there's, like, certain looks that come throughout, and they're all, not they all, but, like, there's a look of what it means to, like, be attractive. And you're literally going to the club to, like, be picked. So I would say that I do agree that it's not because like my mom said my mom's actually really cool and empowered and confident. It's because I think in society it's just shaped that way. Like, it's just shaped that way. I can't imagine that. Yeah, I grew up thinking that like if I was thin and beautiful, then I would get picked, and then I would. And like the other stuff was less important.
Yeah. Well, and I have had this thing about being chosen as well. And I'm like, the story in my head is like, if I'm so fucking great, why don't I have a partner?
Right.
Like, like what the hell?
Because people are like, you're so amazing.
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
left and right.
I get compliments a lot too.
Oh my God, you're so amazing. You're so sexy. You're so this, you're so that. You're blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean.
You look so beautiful.
Like, your energy's so great. You're so fun. You're so, it's like, then why are you not choosing to spend more time with me? Or like, why am I not the one? And then like not knowing, is it better to be the queen or the mistress? And then why am I saying like I need to be chosen in order to prove that I have reached some level of worthfulness, in the world, in the eyes of the other. And so, it was just like that whole thing when I read your post yesterday, that it was just like, actually, could we read your post?
Yeah.
Would you read your post? I think it's really powerful. And we're clearly not the only two women who are grappling with this whole thing about choice. And another thing that I realize is that I will see a couple, and for all I know, they're freaking brother and sister, okay? And they might be arm in arm walking down the street together.
Yeah.
And I will make up some fantastical story about their love and their relationship and think, why not me? Why them? Why not me? So it's just like all of these things around being chosen. So I'd love for you to read your piece.
Just had lunch with a man I used to talk to, aka hang out and have sex. And like, side note, he called it talking, I was like, oh, so we're like dating? And he's like, we're talking.
Talking and having sex. Okay.
Which means we're spending time together.
Sure.
It's so weird. We hadn't seen each other in 2 months since we had an ending over text. We're all good now. It's clear he just wants to be friends and is not looking for, quote, something serious. This is a very popular thing that men say to me. My entire life, I've looked at these situations like, he doesn't want to be with me. I'm not good enough for him to choose. Something's wrong. Maybe I'm not beautiful enough, not smart enough. Maybe I'm too smart, too dominant. Maybe I'm the wrong race. My body isn't sexy enough. My personality's wrong. I'm too forward. I have too many emotions. I communicate too much. I'm too curious. I'm annoying. I'm too challenging. I collect evidence to prove these beliefs are true. I have lots. Then I feel bad and continue to try and shape myself to be someone that a man would want. AKA look hotter, don't say how I feel, don't ask for much, change my wants to match his. I've been critically thinking about all of this over the last 2 years. I suspect this sort of thinking is linked to misogyny and patriarchy. Here's how. Men are still the most powerful decision makers in our society. Women were once their property and still are in so many systematic ways. It has been deeply ingrained in me that my main life hope as a straight woman is to get married to a good man and make a family. The other stuff I may accomplish in my life makes me a cool, interesting, and modern woman, but it's just extra. Main goal, I must be romantically wanted by men, so much so that they pick me. Men, on the other hand, don't have the same pressure. In fact, it's overemphasized for them to wait until you're ready, aka get laid more and focus on your career. I'm walking away today from this lunch like, fuck those thoughts. I want more powerful ones. This is a new frontier. Power and gender is being disrupted, and I'm a part of it. There is infinite love and relationship building available. And if I'm going to challenge systems, then this system will look different too. It was designed for women to be servile and to continue to give men the most power. I'm not feeding those beliefs anymore. Bye. Hashtag bye. Yeah. So that's what I read. And well, actually, that's what I wrote. But, I'm saying that because you just said the statement about like you see people on the street and you create these stories. And I have done that. But today, what I'm trying to do, mainly because my thoughts, the older I get, even it has to do with like I'm building a business and I don't want to be distracted and I don't want to bring myself down. Mm-hmm. And like, I did have all those thoughts and they hurt me. I cried. Like, I was crying yesterday, feeling like, why do I have this deep desire for like a man's arms to be wrapped around me and to like love me? And maybe, and of course there's biological reasons and DNA reasons, but like me worrying that like me feeding the thoughts of like, he doesn't want his arms to be wrapped around me because there's something wrong with me is like absolutely not worth my time anymore, you know? And like, what's worth my time is to like feed myself the love that I need and feed myself the respect and worth that I need to like not go into situations to attempt to not go into situations where I'm creating these stories on the street and I'm thinking that there's something wrong with me because like at minimum, it's just not fun to live like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and what a waste of precious creative energy and human spirit and and I think when I was talking about disrupting is like, it's funny because I disrupt all these systems, but deep down I do still want to be chosen, right? Like my thinking, meaning disrupt the systems, I challenge them and I think, and in my career I go after, I push on like why there's so few representation of people of color and women in all of these decision-making roles. And we know why. It's literally linked to history, to oppression. So I push all of that, but then internally there's still some sort of like, I want to push it and also have a hot, powerful, successful husband who chose me. Yeah. Because I was hot. And also all these other things, but like, so it's interesting because, so that's what I'm like, that's the harder thing for me today is like, maybe that isn't, well, is marriage, what is marriage? Like, is it real? Are we supposed to have one partner? Is that normal? Is that actually wrapped up in like ownership? It is, right? And then like if I want to procreate, is it with one person and how does it work? And it's just like, it's complicated. So I'm just not sure. And I'm not sure, but and that's when I said, like a new frontier, I really feel like I don't know what the path ahead is, but I do know that something feels fishy about this and it doesn't feel good and it doesn't feel fair. And I'm going to keep, trying to have like an equal experience. Yeah. Awesome. And I'm going to keep choosing myself.
Yeah.
And every time I think, why isn't he choosing me? I'm just going to remember, I choose myself.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm just like, okay, bring that energy back into me, like, don't, like just being mindful of when it's like out there with them in a way that I'm trying to get something.
Right.
Right. Right. And then like, I can actually choose myself.
Right.
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 So where did Cycles and Sex get born? Like, where was the seedling of that coming from?
Ash, my incredible business partner, she is a birth doula. Do you know what that is?
I do.
Everybody.
I had a midwife.
Cool.
When I was 20 and had my daughter. So
a doula is something you would add on to a midwife. It's someone who supports people through and transitions. And a birth doula supports mothers through their birth experience. So she's very much like, a space holder.
Yeah.
And a support. She's emotional support, and she gives people their opportunities and she gives people education. It's funny because essentially what Cycles and Sex is it's like the doula model. So Ash realized in her birth doula work for like 5 years in New York City that it was wildly, shocking how little people knew about their bodies. And these are, like women in New York City are like educated, wealthy, progressive, PhDs with, they're these women. Mm-hmm. And they're going into private hospitals having birth where they have all the money to provide all the resources that they need, and they're still being like subject to obstetric violence, things like being cut without consent, given medicine without consent, being drug tested without consent, not knowing like what's happening in their body with their hormones, not being able to talk openly and confidently about sex, the actual thing that led them to be pregnant in the first place. And so she thought like, this is crazy. We have to do something about this. I want to make this information more normal and easy to find. It's been branded so poorly, and it's like, yeah, it's hard to find. It's either academic or medical. It's like not easy information. And besides all of that, at the same time, there's this movement of kind of like women's a new wave of women's empowerment and reproductive rights being stood up for. And this is a little bit before Trump got elected, and Thinks, which is like a period, there's a little bit of innovation happening in the menstrual space. And
so like Thinks is a women-run company that created the first period underwear. Period-proof underwear.
And so she was like, that's happening, and there's this huge lack of info. Like, I want to do an event where I bring it all together. And then she saw me. I was doing something called Medi Club and the Big Quiet, which was a big community that meditated and played music and sang music, and it was kind of like a congregation around no religion, no God, but like truth. He wouldn't say it that way. It's like it's a community of people that come together to share silence, sound, and communicate and like talk about their feelings. Connection. So I was leading that with Jessie, who started it, and I was on stage like talking about my feelings and talking about truth. And she saw me and said, like, you're good at this. You're a good leader, and you're you're a woman, and you know how to bring a lot of people together. Can you help me do this event? So that's how like the idea for the event, it started as an event. So we called it Cycles and Sex. It's reproductive cycles is what we're talking about. And then, Trump got elected soon after, and we felt even more inspired to make sure that this happened. And we started reaching out to all the brands in the space, all the nonprofits in the space, all the experts, and asking them to come do this event in New York City. It was strangely more successful than we could have imagined. Like, we thought 200 people might come, and like over 900 people came.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there was a line wrapped around the block to get in, and every brand said yes and paid us to be involved. And it was just wild. And, all these experts flew in, and we made a bunch of money, we made profit, and which is wild for, an event that happened for the first time. So we were like, whoa. And the biggest complaint was like, it's too crowded. And that's a great thing for an event.
Yeah.
The other question was like, where do we find this stuff? And we were like, we don't know. Like, we just pulled it all together, did a lot of research, and there isn't somewhere. So we started an Instagram, it started growing, and we started making sure to put like a lot of information on all of our posts, just because we wanted people to be informed. We don't care if you believe in abortion or against it. We want you to understand what your choices are.
Yeah.
And so we started building it. We did another one in LA. It was really successful again. And it was just clear that we were onto something and that there was something here. So we've been brainstorming, like, what is it? What's the business? Is it a nonprofit? Is it a business? Like, how do we grow it? It almost felt like the universe was like, well,
here you go.
Yeah. Like, you have a responsibility, or you could let it go, but like, you did something really well, and people really want this. So we've been figuring out what it is, and today, and so it's been about a year since, or a little under a year, 9 months since we've both been working on it, almost full time, and now full time. And what we're building is the destination for all things reproductive health and sex. And we really believe that to connect person or people to all this information, that we're taking like a 4-pillar approach. So it's education, which we're doing through content. Tools, we're connecting people to buy things through a marketplace. practitioners and experts, so we're connecting people kind of like ZocDoc, but for reproductive health and sex, and alternative practitioners. And then community. So we're going to continue to have events and link people online and in real life so that people can come together and share their stories, because like we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, like we're not alone. And, you know, I mean, if you just, especially women, this information has been so shame-inducing and so hard to find and kept from us, and there's so little research that like people are struggling.
Yeah.
And if they just realize that we all have this body and we all have these experiences, we are more powerful.
Yeah.
You know, and we can heal and move forward with just like again, knowledge. You know, people talk about like knowledge is a basic birthright. And like, if you look at the history of this stuff, it's truly been kept and changed. Like the history and the knowledge about specifically like female bodies.
Oh yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, so we're just like, look, man, here's all the stuff. And here, we'll make it easy for you to understand. And like, here's some cool innovations that you can work with. And you don't have to use tampons. You don't actually have to take a birth control pill. We don't have an opinion, but if you don't want to, here's other option.
Yeah.
And here's how to do it. And it might not be that you're infertile.
Yeah.
Like, try acupuncture, try nutrition, try like...
Yeah.
There's so many things. Maybe you should try mind massage. Maybe you have been sexually assaulted since you were young, and that's why like you're not producing a baby. There's all of these things. You know? So that's what we're building.
Amazing. Yay!
Yeah, it's cool.
Woo-hoo!
It's cool. I believe
Thank
in
you.
it.
Yeah. I love it.
And it's really amazing building something from nothing. It's a lot of work. We're raising money.
Yeah.
Which is also an interesting experience around self-worth and class and raising money for something like this. And, you know, people like to give money to things that are going to multiply really fast, that equal more money. And I really believe this market is like ravenous and massive. And I really believe that our approach is smart and long-term, but it's definitely new for the traditional investor.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's really fun. It's like, I'm so entertained.
Amazing. Do you have a next event coming up, or?
We're going on a 11 city tour in 2019. So
fun.
It'll be cool. We'll launch our product. We currently just have an Instagram and a website, which it's Cycles and Sex on Instagram or .com on the web. But we're working on this other digital product that's more sophisticated, kind of like the things with all the channels I described. And then we'll go on an 11 cities tour starting in like end of February.
Nice.
In New York. It'll start in New York.
Great.
But all the info will be like up and easy to find.
Awesome. Cyclesandsex.com or Cycles and Sex on Instagram.
Yeah.
Facebook as well, or?
Kinda. We're not really feeding it right now.
Okay, so focusing on Instagram and your website.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so just like before we wrap up here, just thoughts on the Me Too movement, Kavanaugh hearings. You've got this powerful piece that you posted on your personal Instagram page with the sounds of the women who were protesting the Kavanaugh hearings. And actually, a good friend of mine and my co-creator for a project that we created together, Inclusive Conversations, she was there, and she flew out from San Francisco 4 or 5 times over the course of a month, and maybe 3 times, and she was arrested 4 or 5 times. And so let's just talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I posted the sounds because it's just insane how it's like women are screaming. Women are just like screaming to be heard, screaming, you know, and
like, what will it take? How, like, yeah, what will it?
And even the interesting thing about the actual recording from the hearing, or not even the hearing, the vote for Kavanaugh and all the people protesting was like, it was literally being like drowned out and people were being arrested and quieted and it just reminds me, I have this visceral experience sometimes as a woman when I feel often by men, like, it's, okay, I'm just going to explain it like this because this is what it feels like emotionally, and I don't understand it enough to have enough language for it, but like, it literally feels like someone's like hand is being pushed on my face and like telling me to, like pushing me down. And sometimes like I'll experience that feeling from like how someone will talk to me when I'm trying to be heard. And I think that was like the experience of these women just screaming to be heard and then it being drowned out and ignored by like a room full of mainly men.
Mainly white men.
Mainly white men is very real. And I think is just like startling. Like what will it take? So what do I think about Kavanaugh? I think Trump and Kavanaugh are like, similar or, the whole experience of like him being elected and him being voted in is like, it's a fight back of the movement we're talking about, and it's a grasping for power by the group that's had the most. And I think that it's probably really scary to be a white guy right now because, even if it's not your fault, but, maybe even if you weren't, a slave owner that came and like created a whole society and economic system based on repressing and using people, that's how the country was formed. And like, that's how the policy was written to this day, and I mean, to this day that like, it's not okay. And we're outnumbering you now. And even like racially, the numbers are going to be out, So I think it's scary. And I think that Trump being elected and the rhetoric that he uses is just to like evoke and grasp this power that I really feel like is fleeting. I'm not afraid of it. I think it's sad, but I think it's kind of like coming to a head.
Yeah, same. And so in terms of, Me Too, thinking in terms of just how we all need to be responsible for Me Too, because I certainly have been
tied into the chosen stuff.
Yeah. And like, I certainly have been, I've experienced sexual assault in my life in different ways. I still don't define it in a specific way. However, it became clear to me that like, oh yeah, that was sexual assault, like, and so it's something that I, have been doing a dance with and just understanding more for myself. I also see how I've pushed myself on other people in ways that were like, whoa, okay, like, no, I'm really not, feeling you like that, and having to check myself. So, and then also putting myself in really sketchy situations and literally escaping by the skin of my chinny chin chin.
Yeah.
Right. So like for all of us, everyone taking responsibility for, where you are, who you're with, what you're choosing, how to heal, how to deal with what's happened to you, how to clean up what anything that you've done to someone else, like all of us taking a role in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and this is why cycles and sex even exist. Sex is like a weird thing that's confusing. I mean, it is wrapped up in like evolutionary, animalistic desires and politics and religion and cultural norms. And I don't think because it's like one of the hardest things to talk about. And because of that, we all have all this like, we're confused. We don't know how to deal with it. And it comes out in these bursts. And then I think because women are traditionally property or like, like want to be wanted, that we put ourselves, in situations where we're more vulnerable to be picked, to be like grabbed, picked like with hands. And we want that, even though it hurts and it's wrong. And I think like the traditional male masculinity has been designed also weird, like to think that they own and they have a right to these things and that we are meat, and I think that it's not our fault. Like, it's really because of how this issue hasn't been like examined in like a realistic way. And I think, so at Cycles and Sex, we actually created this consent workshop. Well, and we talk about consent being like understanding what your body wants and doesn't want, and then learning to listen to it because it gives you so much information. Like, there's so many times that my stomach has told me like, this is not right, but I like ignore it. And if you Same. And so I think that how do we pay more attention to ourselves and then pay more attention to like the language of the people around us and just move with more awareness about each other. And it's okay if one person wants something and the other doesn't, but like I think there's a way that we can heal and move forward, and it has to do with what you're saying. Like, just paying closer attention.
Yeah, and consent is a big one, and just being courageous and powerful and like being in our power and having conversations about stuff. We actually, Ignite Intimacy is going to be live on the South by Southwest podcast stage 2019.
Cool.
So we're
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
We're going to be there too.
Oh, great. All right.
Talking about
cool.
cannabis and
Yeah.
reproductive health and sex.
Well, I would love to sit in on your session.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And we're doing a conversation called Making Disclosure Sexy because, in 2018, there's remains a stigma around herpes. And from my experience, a lot of, people that I'm either sexually engaged with or interested in sexual relationship, when I talk with them about like, well, have you been tested and when have you been tested and have you been with anyone unprotected, and just like realizing that there's a lot of unprotected sex going around.
Totally.
There are a lot of people who don't get tested or don't remember the last time they get tested, or like will like freely like be like, give me a blowjob, and they really don't know where they stand as far as, testing and STDs and partners and blah, blah, blah. So we're bringing it to, as someone who's had herpes for 14 years, we're bringing it to the stage and saying like, let's make this conversation sexy.
Cool.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, it's something I know, is you probably know this, but there's a lot of innovation around making STDs easier and something you can do in the privacy of your own home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Home kits.
Yeah.
And apps. I don't know too much about this yet. It's actually an idea that I had, and I'm glad that someone else has put something out there. And it's something that I will research before the South by Southwest event, just so that I know what's out there as far as like apps. Because I thought, well, what's a really easy, non-invasive way to just be like, oh, here's my status, and oh, here's my status, and actually this is the last time I got tested, and this is, it's like a period app for STD.
Yeah, there's one
testing.
called Safe.
Okay, Safe.
I mean, there's a bunch, but that's
Cool.
like my friend. I think it's a great company.
Great. Okay, so check out Safe. And then the other thing, you can't see me, y'all, out there, but Lauren, I was like, oh, I forgot to mention something when we were talking about the Kavanaugh thing, and it slipped my mind. It's back now, and it's just, there's a great series on the podcast Seen on Radio, a series called Men. And so it will give you insight into male dominance and the way that, it's just phenomenal. And then Seen on Radio, it's seen like the scene in a movie, SCENE on radio. They have a phenomenal 14-part series called Seeing White, which is another phenomenal must listen for everyone. It will blow your mind. And also it is seriously disturbing around the origins of whiteness and white supremacy and racism. And it will give you a lot of insight. So the series Men is also a very powerful series and will also give you a lot of insight into male dominance and the current structure of our society. And we're here to bust that open. We're busting that wide open. We're flipping the script. And Lauren, it has been such a pleasure to be here with you today. Ignite Intimacy. Holler at us, hello@igniteintimacy.com if you have questions, you want to connect with Lauren. And you can also check out Cycles and Sex on Instagram and also cyclesandsex.com. I'm assuming you have a contact page or a email list that people can subscribe to.
Totally.
Cool.
Yeah, as soon as you click on it, there's an
Great.
email list. Yeah, we have weekly newsletters. They're really awesome.
Awesome. Cool. And so for like anyone, I think
it's for all bodies.
All bodies. Yeah. So all bodies, hear us. Check it out. Cyclesandsex.com. Lauren Bille, big up yourself.
Thank you.
You're doing the work and, living and sharing. And that's what life is all about, So love you. Thank you. And enough respect. And I can't wait to see what you continue to create. And Ignite Intimacy, we love you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in to another powerful episode here. You know how we do. We're bringing it with the fullness every Tuesday. And stay blessed. We'll see you on the next one. And ciao for now. Thanks for tuning in to another conversation on the Ignite Intimacy podcast hotline. We love that you choose to spend your time with us. Check us out at igniteintimacy.com.
subscribe to us on iTunes, and leave us a review and a rating. It helps more people know about us. We love to hear from you. You can email us with questions, comments, or suggestions to hello@igniteintimacy.com. And tell your friends. Music was arranged by Jason Pfaff and Mike Corey, and this podcast is produced by yours truly, Laura Aisha. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, let your light shine bright and ignite your intimacy.